Hello, everybody, and welcome to the entertainment headquarters, and welcome to the segment Kaiju Connections. But this is a Kaiju Connections with a bit of a twist because this time we're not really talking much about a Kaiju movie, but we're talking about a sci fi classic from the 1960s. And we're here to talk about a film that has a small cameo by a lady who I will have the pleasure of interviewing tomorrow. I'm talking about Linda Miller, who was the star of King Kong Escapes, and I wanted to kind of dive deeper into her world and her career by looking at another film that, like I say, she took part in. Might be a small part, but still, it was an enjoyable movie, and I'll talk a bit more about that in a moment. But the film I'm here to talk about is The Green Slime. What an amazing poster.
That is.
Yeah.
Yes.
Better than the
And
actual movie.
yes. So to talk about The Green Slime, we have a handful of amazing guests. Of course, right next to me is Mr. Jedi Velle, who loves to keep the kaiju love alive.
All the time.
Yes. Then we have the Professor, Daniel Miller. We
Good
have
evening.
Anthony Jordan of Anthony Jordan Movies and Gaming. And of course, the man of the hour, Mr. Retro Fantastic, Thrashpondo Pons. Because
me. Oh yeah, me. I forget I was here.
yes, because if there's anything we know about you, Mr. Thrash, is you love your classic retro cinema and television. It's your bag, it's what you're known for, it's what you really enjoy. And since I've gotten to know your channel, I've learned a lot about the 60s and 50s films and television, especially on Sunday nights when you do your trivias, which is always a blast. I always like just sitting here listening to them, and if I can, interacting with them. So that's what Mr. Thrash is known for. So it makes perfect sense to have you on this stream today. And of course, Mr. Jedi Granville, Mr. Daniel Miller, they also love their retro stuff, and as well as Anthony Jordan. But let's get cracking and talk about The Green Slime. So as always, I like to start these things with the first question always being, can you remember your first viewing of The Green Slime? So we'll start off with Mr. Jedi Granville.
Well, believe it or not, this is what's going to be fascinating to hear is that the first time I actually watched this film was in 2019 at G-Fest, believe it or not. See, they have these, you didn't, when we was at the Crown, and they do this even when we go to the Hyatt, but they have a little room where they have, when I say little room, they should say this place where they have different panels and everything. They have this one particular room that shows various, like specials or anything kaiju or tokusatsu related to.
It was like a conference room that they converted into
Yes.
like a cinema room.
Yes, and it's like I say, they have a big screen and everything, and they still give that cinematic flavor to it, and they just happen to be showing it. I just happened to come into it when it was starting, and I said, well, let me just watch this for a minute, And I'm thinking maybe we'll get a few minutes in, but I got so hooked on it, intrigued by what was going on. I said, let me just stay and watch this. I mean, it's playing. Let me watch it and see what I get out of it. And I'm like, after that, I was like, wow, okay, this is pretty good. And the funny thing is, I was looking for Linda Miller's cameo in this, and I was kind of saying, where is she? And then it didn't occur to me that the reason I didn't see her at first glance is because she's a ginger in here. She's usually a blonde, but she's gingered in this picture. This is probably why I didn't see her at first, but when I looked at her face, like, oh, that's Linda. It's like, I'm like, okay, this is it. But that's
and also another thing as well, like the way I had to look around and try to spot her is not only has she changed her hair color, but obviously in King Kong Escape she had like a blonde bob, where she's got really long auburn hair in this.
Right.
Yeah. Daniel Miller.
Well, my introduction to this movie, I found out about it at G-Fest in 2016. I saw a poster for it in the dealer's room on sale. Then I saw the poster for it again in G-Fest 2019. It was in one of the rooms. Yes, that's the poster. It was one of the rooms that they converted into a small cinema while they were doing the bigger movies at the
Pickwick.
Yeah, that was it. The Pickwick Theatre in the Pickwick Theatre in town. But actually seeing the movie, it was earlier. It was earlier this afternoon, actually. It wasn't quite what I was expecting, but I appreciate it for what it is, considering the time it was made.
Definitely. Anthony Jordan.
Yep, earlier today was the first time.
That's pretty recent.
Yeah, I remember it.
Yes. How about Thrash?
Well, it's funny, if you'll indulge me briefly. This is one of those movies where I heard about it years before I saw it. I remember I was probably 8 and I had gotten this, one of those sci-fi magazines, Famous Monsters or Starlark or something. And I read about it. And I became obsessed with this movie. Like, I had to see it, right? And something the current generation will never fully understand is back in the 70s, you couldn't just download a movie or go to a streaming service. The only way you could see it is to find a network that showed that movie. And even channels that did Creature Feature and stuff like that, where they would show old horror movies, they bought these by the block. And if the package they got didn't include green slime, you didn't watch it. And my local channel bought a block that didn't have green slime, so I couldn't see it. I didn't see green slime for about another 6 or 7 years. It was probably like 82, I think, is when I saw it for the first time. And I did catch it on TV on one of those creature double feature type networks. And I remember I had looked forward to it for so many years. I remember I hung on every word the first time I saw it. It was like the first time I saw Little Shop of Horrors.
Mm-hmm.
I'm trying to think of, but those movies that you've heard about for years, your whole life, or played and you finally get to see it, and it's like, wow. Yeah. So I will always remember the first time I saw it. It was just like a cloudy Saturday afternoon, but and now tonight on blah 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 56, we're going to show the green slime, and I'm like, must watch movie.
Yeah,
and let's just say at the time, I was more starstruck than thoroughly appreciative, if that makes any sense.
Yeah. Well, sorry,
those
Anthony.
blocks, they used to run them on, the channels tended to stick towards the more well-known movies.
Mm-hmm.
Sure.
Mm-hmm.
Indeed, they did.
As for me, my first adventure with the green slime was literally 5-10 minutes ago when we were preparing to watch and do this review. I was still in the middle of watching it, and you guys logged into the stream ready to do this recording literally as I was watching the last 5 to 10 minutes of this movie. There's one thing that I think stands out above all else when it comes to this movie, and that is the theme song, which Walter loves to sing.
Which almost blew your ears or everyone else's ears out last night.
Yes. Yes, quite a unique theme song. And I'll be honest, you have the well-known films of the 60s and 50s, and then you get the lesser known ones. I'm assuming this is like one of the pop culture, like lesser known films.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because I didn't hear about this film. I didn't think I heard about this film until like the early 90s, believe it or not.
It almost sounds like a Jimi Hendrix song.
Yeah.
Yeah.
One thing
I hear Eric Burden. Whenever I hear it, I think, oh, it's Eric Burden and the Animals. That's the first thing that pops into my mind.
Maybe the voice, but like the guitar work sounds very Hendrix.
I'll give you that.
Yeah. One thing I felt, and I don't know if you guys felt this, when I was watching, I didn't feel like I was watching like a 1960s actual movie. I felt like I was watching like a mini series, or it felt like something like from a classic 1950s or 60s television show, like, Lost in Space or Land of the Giants. It for me, even though yes, it's a film, I felt like I was watching like some sort of televised miniseries. I had that kind of feel to it for me personally.
It could have easily been an episode of classic Doctor Who.
Possibly.
The sets have a very teleplay feel to them. I'll give you that. It really did feel like a television set.
Right. I can see that.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So let's
I
get
agree with what Anthony said about how it does have that feel of a Doctor Who serial at points.
Well, even the alien looks. You could have planted that alien in an episode of Doctor Who, and you would not know the difference.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely,
that's true.
Mm-hmm. So the green slime, also known as Gamma 3, the Great Escape over in Japan, was a 1968 tokusatsu science fiction film directed by Kinji Fukasaku and produced by Walter Manley and Ivan Reiner. It was written by William Finger, Tom Rowe and Charles Sinclair. From a story by Reiner, the film was shot in Japan with a Japanese director and film crew, but with the non-Japanese cast of Robert Horton, Richard Jaeckel, and Luciana Paluzzi. I think I said her name right.
And
Close
she's
enough.
a Bond villain. Yeah, I was going to say,
Yes,
she's
was
a Bond villain.
Yes. And of course, it has a lovely little cameo by the lovely Linda Miller.
And you were so right, because she normally has a blonde bob cut. And there's like three other women in there that have blonde bob cuts. I'm like, oh, there she is. No, that's not her. Oh, no, that's not her.
Right.
Oh, no, that's not her. You're right. But she's like a redhead. Something tells me, I only am basing this on a hunch. I actually looked to confirm this and I couldn't. I think she actually auditioned for Fiona's part, which is why she did the long red hair.
Yeah.
And then when she didn't get the part, they said, "Oh well, we'll use you as nurse," and that's what she's listed in the credits as nurse.
Yes.
But I really think she was hoping that she would get the starring role in this and didn't. That's just a guess of mine.
Well, I might find out tomorrow. Yes.
Let me know.
So yes. So after destroying a huge after destroying a huge asteroid, there was.
Wait a minute. That would be an interesting. You just said something. That would have been an interesting take on a film. Like, say, let's blow up an astronaut the size of Galactus, and it's like, boom. That would be a cool thing to see. Yes.
Yeah. After an astronaut gets sucked through a black hole, he comes back as like 500 times the size, and there's no stopping him from reaching Earth's atmosphere. So they have to blow him up to save the planet, because it will be an extinction level event for a huge ass astronaut crashing into Earth.
Yes, let's just hope. Yes. Also, that if they can do the attack of the 50-foot woman, they can do a giant astronaut. Let's just hope when he turns around in space, as his backside's turning towards the Earth, he doesn't let rip.
Yeah.
Because
It's like
then it's boom, it's overtime.
he lets it go, and it's like, oh, it's been atomized now, the planet Earth.
God, what happens if that gas mixes with the troposphere? Will cause a chain reaction and vaporize the entire atmosphere.
Oh my god! Oh well, don't let it hit the sun then, if that's the case. You know.
Yes.
Oh, God.
Oh my goodness. Okay.
Yes. So after destroying a huge asteroid that was on a rapid collision course with Earth, a group of astronauts discover they have accidentally returned to their space station with an alien slime that turns into a creature that feeds on radiation and can rapidly reproduce from its own blood. So, who would like to start us off talking a little bit about this film? Daniel Miller?
Yeah, Daniel Miller.
Oh,
Yeah. He's
yeah.
Professor.
Okay. Now, of course, the film begins, if you're watching the American version, with the iconic lion of the MGM logo roaring. Then we see, of course, a shot of the space station Gamma 3 in orbit around the Earth. It's here that we are introduced, if I remember this correctly. No, that's not it. No. Yes, it's told that we're part of the UNSC, which, as far as my knowledge of Tokusatsu goes, that's the United Nations Space Committee from Destroy All Monsters. But I very much doubt it's the same organization because it's a different studio.
Right. This is totally.
Yeah. Now, there's a very commonly used letters UNSC in these science fiction movies. It's like, oh yeah, let's use UNSC, but change the meaning so we don't get copyright infringement.
Sometimes it's Space Command. Sometimes it's
Scientific Committee or
committee.
Yeah. So while on the space station, a group of scientists discovered that an asteroid named Flora, which may or may not be the real asteroid 8 Flora, although the mass of 6 million tons or tons given from Flora in order of magnitude less than the mass of 8 Flora is on a collision course with the Earth. The space program summons Commander Jack Rankin.
Tall, handsome, Deviel kind of individual who's been
the chiseled jaw.
Yes, very chiseled jaw.
Yep.
That's the thing. That's the kind of thing they always did with these characters. Like, make sure he's very chiseled and just very outgoing, and he's just like a man's man here, and we sent him to do the job that he's meant to do, And back there's good old Mr. Dunham there, in the background.
Yep.
Yeah, I see him.
But no, he is that kind of character we see multiple times in a lot of these 50s and 60s films, and he has to do the job that no one else can do, and he's there to do the job. He's up there because he's the specialist and he knows what to have to do in order to vanquish the threat that's coming this way. But I also want to point out too, this film, it starts out with the concept almost as identical to another Japanese film that came out in '62, Gorath, which deals with a large asteroid body coming towards Earth. It's just that it's a different subtext of what's going on, where in that film they have to move the Earth in order to not get hit by this planetoid. But here they're just going to blow it up like Armageddon style.
I'm convinced that both Armageddon and Deep Impact both saw this movie because they both have very similar premises to the opening segment, which of course then that whole opening segment turns out to just be a red herring, or should I say a green herring in this case.
You're right. Very good. That's a good point. Now, but I'll make this quick too. This is why I say a lot of Western filmmakers have to be influenced by a lot of these older films, because I've said this time and time again that James Cameron, even though I know it's probably not true, might have got some influence from Godzilla versus Mechagodzilla because
For the
the way,
Terminator.
yes, for the Terminator, because the way the fake Godzilla when Mechagodzilla melts the skin off, that's kind of a thing that happens in Terminator when his flesh gets burnt off in Terminator, But I'm just pointing that out.
Well, let's face facts. James Cameron borrowed from everyone. In fact, somewhere, I don't have it with me, there's a list of, and these are just the works that I could think of for precursors to Avatar. I can name about 15 sources that he borrowed from. Call Me Joe, Hot House by Brian Aldiss, Mech Wars. I mean, Cameron, what he does, he borrows from everyone and just makes an amalgam.
James Cameron claims that from Terminator came from a fever dream he had, but yet Harlan Ellis, it's also very similar to an episode of The Outer Limits he wrote, and there was a lawsuit about it, and he even said if there was just a thanks to him in the credits, he would have been fine. And that's why if you watch the movie now, there's actually a special thanks to Harlan Ellis. It was because of that lawsuit they were required to put that in there. So Cameron, you can say what you want about him as a director, but as a creative mind, he's not really the creative genius he's really hailed as.
Well, my theory on Cameron is this. I think when he was a kid, he was like me. He watched a bunch of science fiction, forgot where he got all the ideas from, and then said, hey, you know what'd be cool? If this soldier from the future fought a robot. Yeah. And in his defense, in Soldier, it's two soldiers. It's not a soldier and a robot. But when you combine Soldier with Demon with the Glass Hand and I Have No Mouth and I Must Scream, then when you put them all together, then you have the Terminator.
And there's a scene from the episode Soldier that's very similar to when they're interrogating Kyle Reese at the police station.
Yes. Yes.
I know that.
Well, let's face it, it's very difficult to make an original piece of work. You will always find, a movie or a series that will take elements and it's that case is that you can make the same story time after time and still kind of make it original, depending on how you work it. And that's happened many times within the world of cinema. Like, obviously, when you had Star Wars, you had, the reveal that Darth Vader was Luke's father. And then we've seen how many series or films since then where you've got a heroine or a hero who discovers that their parent is the villain and it's meant to be the big secret by the film's end, and it's not. So it's like, I recently watched a movie which was like a fun, quick action film called Boy Kills World with Bill Skarsgård. And it was just a real fun film. But right at the end, there was something that was very predictable happened. And as soon as I've seen what happened, I was like, they took that from Star Wars. Like that part of the story, I was like, it felt very much like something they've done in Star Wars, but instead of it being in a science fiction movie, they've put it in like an action martial arts movie. Like the concept of that part of the story. So it just shows you can work it any way as you want and still kind of make it feel different.
But don't forget that Star Wars was kind of almost an homage to something that George Lucas saw as a youth, was Throne of Blood. And I think it's called Throne of Blood, where
Fortress.
Thank you. I'm sorry. Thank you.
Sorry.
Yes. No. I need that correction. Thank you. I was saying, was it Throne of Blood or something like that? But it was some similarities in that film that were in Star Wars. So, and I've seen that film, and I know that when you watch, it's like, there's some very particular similarities to this film that is in Star Wars. And it's just like, yes, that whatever was done then is carried on again here. But then it's like, whatever George Lucas or anyone else does, it's carried on to the next generation where they're doing some homage, taken from that, So it's always something that's carried on to another one, and it just as long as they make it their own in terms of something stylized and something a little different, it can come out of not so much the same old rehashed tripe that they've done before, but it depends though.
Well, if you think of Star Wars is Hidden Fortress meets Space Battle Cruiser Yamato, but you know where it really draws from?
Spaghetti
and a lot
Westerns.
of people miss this.
Spaghetti Westerns.
Dune.
Yeah.
Dune.
Really?
Yeah, dude. Think about it. Both the main character ends up getting caught up in his destiny. Both start out as wanting to be good, but end up becoming bad. Both end up having twins. I actually do a whole post about that, about how Paul Atreides is effectively Darth Vader.
Since you brought that one up, even one of my favorite science fiction franchises, Warhammer 40K. Humanity is a galactic government, and at the center of it is the Emperor of Mankind, who they worship as a god and has armies of religiously fanatical soldiers. God Emperor of Dune, anyone?
Definitely.
I also think the earlier Star Wars movies, you can definitely see influences from like classic westerns as well. Especially
definitely.
on like Tatooine and all that. How it's like a desert world, a desert planet. You can see like when they go to the little town, it feels like they're going out, to somewhere like Deadwood, somewhere out in the the middle of nowhere in the Wild West days.
Someone said that, when Return of the Jedi came out, and someone actually said that that's basically what the original trilogy was compared. And I didn't see it at the time until years later and realized, well, wait a minute, it really does seem a mirror or a Western in many ways, because they're doing it, that kind of style. And then it just says it takes place, a long time ago, during the Western times. And I was like, I can actually see it, because you're doing the, not chariot race, but wheel cart chase and all these other things just in spaceships, or sometimes on the ground, like in Return of Jedi, where they're doing the speeder run and everything. So it's like you can see that, But I mean, I think you have to be convinced that mirrors that, because you think it's basic sci-fi, but that doesn't mean it doesn't have that Western feel to it.
Well, Jabba the Hutt is definitely an old Western warlord.
Yeah,
like something you'd see, for a few dollars more or something like that. He is definitely the corrupt guy who just kind of controls the whole town. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So, yeah. Well, Kurosawa himself, he said that his samurai movies were all borrowing from the Westerns because he loved Westerns when he was younger. So yeah, it kind of, there's a lot of co-borrowing going on. But of course, we all know what Orson Welles said. To borrow from one another is fine. It's when you start borrowing from yourself, you should be ashamed.
Yes.
With the samurai movie, there's a very symbiotic relationship between the American Western and the samurai movie.
Huge.
Yes.
Huge.
So, So where were we up to on the green slime?
Getting back to
the we're dealing with the astronaut, that's coming towards Earth, but they're going to be blowing it up. I'm sorry, it's asteroid Flora, and I think they have blown it up, but they have gotten some pesticide. I'm not pesticide, some parasite that's cleaned onto one of the astronauts, suits. So
yes, but before we get to that, there is something that I found hilarious, and it was this.
Wow. Okay. Now talk about
talk about shitting your pants.
Right. He's
and they never established why the medical officer has to go on the mission to blow up the asteroid. You know, it's just like, oh, your orders change while you're en route. I'm supposed to go with you. Okay. Why? You know?
Yeah. So, like you say,
casualties.
Yeah. So, like you say, Rankin gets put in charge of this space mission, which obviously there is also on the top of the space mission. So you have Rankin there who, you know, gets put on given the tough job, who's tough talking, he takes no prisoners. He's one of those people that I get the job done and I come home. So that's Jack Rankin. So he is the lead officer there. And then you have Richard Jaeckel, who plays Commander Vince Elliott, who obviously this is Vince Elliott. They're having a bit of a dispute there. You have Luciana Paluzzi as Dr. Lisa Benson, who is gorgeous. She is a gorgeous lady.
She's amazing. She's beautiful.
I hate to know that she was a villain in a Bond film, you know, because she's too beautiful to be playing a villain. But I guess that's why they chose her.
Yeah, but like the thing is, something else you discover, and this is after they've been on. There's kind of like this tension between her and Rankin, and you don't really know what that is. Like you say, they go on that mission. As the Doctor's exploring the asteroid, he discovers like this kind of pool of water, and there's like this green substance, this green slime that seems to be moving or pulsating like that. He then obviously goes to, you know, bring it back on board, but Rankin's like, I don't think so. We don't have time. He basically hides it away, but a part of the substance gets splashed onto one of the astronauts' suits, containment suits. They're flying off. They manage to, you know, release the bomb, detonate it. It explodes the asteroid. They think the day is saved and they return back to the space station. And soon after arriving, you then discover when it comes to Rankin and the Doctor and the other commander that there's kind of some sort of love triangle going on, because, of course, you can't just have a 1960s or 1950s, you know, sci-fi epic without a love triangle.
Yes.
Yep.
They did that in the original Gojira, believe it or not. So
yes.
Yeah.
Only that one made sense.
You know? that one made sense, and for me personally, it was more convincing. Like, I think part of it, they made the Dr. Lisa Benson, they basically made her want a cake and eat it. You know, she's moved on from one commander to the next commander.
Mm-hmm.
I think the more tragic thing was it seemed that at one point, Rankin and Elliot were really, really cool friends, and this somehow put the kibosh on that. It was sort of a Jason Patrick, Kiefer Sutherland situation, where it was more the loss of the friendship than the whole thing with the lady. And that's just how I interpreted it. And it's probably just because...
Yeah, so they were like really best friends, and then somehow one of them began dating this Doctor off screen many years prior, and then obviously their relationship ended badly for whatever reason. He's married to his job, basically his commission as an officer, and she's then moved on with somebody else, but it just happened to be she gets with his best friend, and as you know, that's always a no-no when, you know, somebody's with somebody and they go and they fall for the friend. But but I guess that for me is like the human side of this story, where they tried to bring in a plot, you know, that people could connect with. But I just don't think it gelled the way that they were hoping it would.
No, I mean, but it made perfect sense. First of all, as you mentioned, she's gorgeous. So... her character is organic. The problem is the whole thing is done to create some type of drama between the existing base commander and the one sent there for his mission. But it doesn't work. I mean, the whole thing starts off when Ellie gets the message. He goes, when he gets here, he's in command. You got it? So it's taken care of. Yet, the three of them, well, the two of them specifically, Rankin and Elliot, they somehow argue about this at least 4 occasions over the course of the movie. And it's like, I thought we agreed upon, is there like a history of codependency in your family? First of all, you say you're okay with it, yet at the same time, we're still arguing and arguing and arguing and arguing. And it was almost like it was done for filler material or to just ratchet up the tension. It just, much like the love triangle itself, it just didn't really work in this case.
Yeah. It's like they didn't know what angle to go for. So they had 2 choices. They had 2 choices. They could have went in the movie and had an angle where, because he's now being put in charge, and after, his best friend, they've lost their friendship over this woman. He's like in charge now, the best friend who is now engaged. And now his old best friend is coming in, sweeping over and taking charge. And I got that element of it, but then they could have just played them off against each other of being these 2 friends who now just hate each other. Yeah. And, built it around like this hate relationship, and then went back to the story with the woman. This is the reasons I really dislike you. But the fact that it was just something like trivial, like, I don't like you because you took over my, battleship. And, I no longer have a toy to play with because you've stolen my toy. It was kind of like, it didn't make sense.
But that's the thing. I mean, because it's mentioned in the movie that he the reason why he's up there because Elliot lost someone on his command where he sacrificed like 10 guys just to save one, and I guess that's the but you would think like you don't really need all that other banter in order to sell that kind of friction between them. But as you said, it's like you throwing that in there, but it's not gelling that well. I mean, it's like you don't need all that. And you've only got 90 minutes to make this work out in terms of the film. And I'm like, you don't need all that. You just need that simple plot point and saying that he lost some people. Okay, I'm up here, so you don't have to lose nobody else. Just simple, but
yes.
And it's on a practical note, when you look at this, there's a reason why the U.S. Navy in particular does not allow dating within the ranks.
Yeah.
Because for one, imagine having a bad breakup with someone and you're on the same ship, so you're never going to be more than 500 yards from that person at any time. Or even if it's an amicable breakup, imagine your friend on the ship being the next person to date that person. Like, from a practical standpoint, it shouldn't be allowed.
Definitely. I can certainly see how that would be worked in. But it's funny when we talked about how this feels like a TV episode because it's 90-minute long.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And I feel like they felt compelled to stretch it out. It's almost like, okay, we have scenes of them fighting the big green monsters, and that's great.
Yeah.
But we only have about 20 minutes of that. We have to pad this out to feature length. For example, Dr. Van Helsing, whatever his name was, he's like, there's that scene where he goes, these things, they reproduce at an alarming rate. I'm like, good, got it. He mentions that 3 more times with the same level of shock and surprise. Oh my God, look how fast they're reproducing. Yes, we've established that. We can, but it's almost like they were trying to drive the point home and at the same time give him more lines because the movie still wasn't 90 minutes long and they needed 90 minutes.
Where we said it feels like TV, where if it was a mini series or something, you would kind of have to reestablish that in every episode for the people who are just now tuning in.
Like Doctor Who, where he'll mention the same thing in 4 episodes of the 5-episode plot.
Yeah. So
you're right. I can see that.
Yeah. So, like, as the plot progresses, the detonation is successful, and Flora is destroyed. The crew returns to Gamma 3 to celebrate while their suits go through decontamination. The energy from the decontamination causes the green slime to evolve. and grow, and in the middle of the celebration an alarm goes off indicating trouble is in the contamination chamber. An officer opens the door and is quickly killed by an unknown assailant. And mind, I think for me, I'll be totally up to this point as I was watching the movie, it is kind of a long, like, from the moment they go to the asteroid, it grabbed me interest seeing the green slime pulsating, then it kind of lost us. I have a lot of moments where it loses us and I'm back in. It loses us, then I'm back in. And one of those moments that happens is the pulsating on the astronaut grabbed us, and then it explained how it was sucking the energy from the machinery and drawing everything off. And then they go back, then you have this 5-10 minutes of this fucking love triangle thing going on. Then you get to the decontamination, and then you get the first kill from the alien that's now evolved. And when they open the door and they see the man lying there and he's completely been electrocuted and he's frazzled, and I thought that was brilliant. Like, didn't think I would, I thought, oh, this is actually getting good, because I thought the effects and how they showcased the dead bodies lying there being completely frazzled from being electrocuted, I thought was really well put together.
Yeah, especially the reverse footage effects of the slime crawling up the lunar truck. I actually thought that was ingenious. It's simple, but for its time, it works.
Yeah.
And I've seen that effect done in the
Blob.
H-Man with it. The Blob too, but I've seen it done in H-Man also, where they did that kind of effect, and it's very well done.
Bless me.
Bless you.
The consistency of the H-Man was all over the place.
Oh, look! If we ever talked about the H-Man, I got to break that movie down by molecules, because there's something about that film. It's good for what it is, but there are so many things in there that I can talk about not so much on the negative side, but just say break it down. It's just like, dude, this could have been done a different way, and I don't think we really needed that, because you got too many subplots, and it's just like, no, but we'll that's for another time.
Well, I cannot wait when you officially launch, the rebranding of your channel, and you have, your live stream set up, because that would definitely be a live stream on Jedi Velle's channel. I would love to be a part of.
Sure.
So that is something that we could definitely do in the future on your channel. But going back to the story, when the senior officers arrive to investigate, they find the crew member electrocuted to death in a strange one-eyed tentacle creature that discharges lethal amounts of electricity. When they attempt to kill it with their laser weapons, they find that the creature's electricity causes its blood to grow into identical creatures. So for me, I really did find that part of the plot quite interesting.
There it is.
Overall, what is your opinion? Yes, there is the one-eyed tentacle creature, but it's got many little eyes across its body.
Yeah.
And these
Do
are
we know if they're eyes? They could just be bumps of some kind, or some type of or it could be like a spider where it has one a complex eye and a bunch of little simple eyes, but it never really establishes what those little eye things are.
Sure.
For me,
they look
just
like
looking
eyes.
for me, when I look at them, they do look like eyes.
Oh, they definitely do. Yeah.
No, they do.
I can see that.
I can see that. Yes, you can see this.
So, overall, what's your guys' opinions of the overall look of the alien?
I'll put this out. I don't know why, but as I was watching and how this thing manifests itself and everything, I'm quickly thinking of John Carpenter's The Thing for some reason, because it's got some typical similarities in terms of where the blood, is its own identity, its own manifestation of survival. So knowing that it grows even from a speck of what it is, it's like that shows like this thing is a very hostile organism. And
sorry.
go ahead.
Yeah, I was going to say that's also a key point in the original Thing from Another World, where after the alien loses its arm, they realize that, after it attacked the dogs outside, some of the dog's blood will got on the arm. Now the arm's moving again. So yeah, that's a similar plot point it shares between that movie. Sorry, Anthony?
Said the arm would have regrown a whole other alien.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. So the one-eyed tentacle creature then discharges large amounts of electricity when they attempt to kill it. Where the hell was I? Despite their attempt to contain the creatures, they quickly multiply even more to the point where they will soon overrun the station. Dr. Halvensen is killed trying to contain the creatures. Now, I just love this man. His facial expressions alone.
Yes. This is where the horror element really comes in when he does this particular shot here. It's so well done.
Like I do like the horror element in this. Like that's one thing that I think this film wins in for its time. Like he goes from shitting his pants to literally dying.
Yes.
Yep.
While shitting his pants.
Yes, he's got the same facial, unless something's where it shouldn't be. But yes, so far the plot itself, this is where things kind of speed off, then there's all the scenes where they decide to evacuate the station, and this is where you have the creatures trying to invade. I believe I don't know if this nurse next to Lucinda, I don't know if that one there is Linda Miller.
No, that's not Linda Miller standing next to her. That's actually Catherine Herron, who we've best known for Genocide and Gort, the Body Snatcher from Hell.
Wow. Oh. So obviously there is Linda Miller though.
Yes, because she spends most of her time. I mean, you see her standing up, Miss Miller, standing up, but she's predominantly in bed when she gets injured. So yeah, that's a different actress next to Benson's character.
Yeah. So obviously they decide to evacuate the station, and Rankin, refusing to leave until the mission is complete, stays in command and decides to evacuate the station on shuttles and set the station to burn up in Earth's atmosphere. Elliot returns to help his friend and is killed trying to save him. So for me, that part would have been is one of the hard parts for me, because you think they've argued for the majority of the movie. They have like this love triangle, and they have like this kind of friendship squabbling throughout the course. And then he actually goes back and he's the one that's killed trying to save Rankin. So if that was happening in real life and you had a fallout with a friend over something ridiculous and you discovered your friend had lost their life while trying to save your life, I would personally be full of guilt or full of, remorse, thinking we couldn't solve what differences and we couldn't just put aside what was going on and move forward with the friendship.
Because the thing I look at when I see this film, I mean, they make some wise decisions in certain places. I mean, the characters, but then they make some of the dumbest decisions in here, such as when Benson and Elliot try to save the doctor, from getting electrocuted. And open the door to let him out. The man is already dead. He's been electrocuted. I'm like, dude, come on now.
And they look surprised. They're like, oh my God, we're too late. Of course you're too late.
I'm like,
Yeah.
Even Forrest Gump would have known. It's like our person wouldn't open that door because them things might electrocute somebody and he might be dead already. Come on, man.
Yeah. I also want to point out one big flaw here. When they're in the infirmary, they've sealed it off after the creature is growing from the slime on the floor. How exactly does the closed circuit TV system get up close and look like it's moving to the slime crawling up the wall? I mean, what? No. I'm sorry. I can understand what they're going for, but it's moments like that from a filmmaking standpoint that tend to take me out of a movie. It's like, no, that's not how CCTV works. That's not. No.
I understand what you said. Yes, I mean it's like you mean you actually got a camera at that particular angle to shoot at this thing? It's like, no.
Yeah. But again,
that's a good point.
Good point. But I also appreciate that same scene for showing the slime effects, like it's sliding up against the walls and it's actually dripping down from the ceiling to create more of the things, which I think is an interesting effect.
I can't figure out why they had knockout gas guns and nets on a space station to begin with. When the doctor says, "Oh yes, we can use knockout gas to like make it unconscious, and then we'll hit it with the net gun." I go, "You have these things lying around on a spaceship? Why? Were you planning to be attacked?"
At least, like John Carpenter's The Thing, you can kind of rationalize. Okay, a flamethrower can clean a lot of ice or snow at once.
Yeah,
and I was just about to bring that up too. Ed. It was like, it's like, why do they have flamethrowers in John Carpenter's The Thing? What is the point of that? But as you mentioned, it's like that you can rationalize that. That's the reason why they have.
But in the book, Who Goes There, they didn't have flamethrowers. What they used was an electric harpoon that they would use for ice fishing, and they would just sort of stab the thing with it and fry it with the electricity.
Yeah.
Oh.
Neat.
Well, in Alien, and it's funny because both Alien and Aliens, I think, both sort of borrowed heavily from Green Slime, perhaps a little more effectively. But in Alien, they don't have flamethrowers. A guy, one of the shop guys they got, makes them. He puts together, he cobbles together some pieces and said, "Look, I made these really cool flamethrowers." And they are. They're the flamethrowers in Alien, the original Alien, are wicked cool. But he just made them with things he had laying around in the shop, and a acetylene torch and a few other things.
Yeah.
But
also the bolt prod, also the cattle prod as well. They did that from scraps on the Nostromo in Alien.
Oh, I
yeah.
that. Thank you. Yes,
Right.
yes.
Yeah.
Very good.
Yeah,
Very
yeah,
good.
they did. I remember that. I'll just show some action shots from the Green Slime. So that's him kicking ass and taking out a number of them.
Names. Yes, many eyes too, by the way.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Oh, that's the same one.
Oh, and who else thought that the flying spacemen were later on used in Roger Moore's Moonraker?
Oh my God, dude! Yes.
Only again more effectively. The Moonraker scene is like, whoa! But the concept, I think, came from here.
And the crazy thing about this is Moonraker, of course, was feeding off of Star Wars at the time, so they were doing their own thing. But yes, I feel that's exactly what I was thinking. I was like, that was so much of a bomb. It's like I thought about that too. Thrash is like, that seems so much like that's what the Moonraker did. It's like, yeah.
Yeah, so Rankin refusing to leave. I've done that bit. So Rankin manages to set up the crash landing and escapes with Elliot's body onto the shuttle as the station burns up and destroys all of the green slime creatures. Rankin logs the mission success and recommends the highest citation for Vince Elliot post-mortemly. So you want to give him the highest honor that you possibly can, which, yes, it's a nice ending. Yes, it's quite, but I was also rolling my eyes thinking, you're such a two-faced twat. You have literally just argued with him for the last 90 minutes.
But the thing about it is,
woman.
Yeah, but Elliot chose to go back to help him, though. See, I mean, he could have let him do what he had to do. You know, he didn't have to go back. You know,
it's a redemption. You know, like the George Papard. Yeah, George Papard, the George Papard character in Battle Beyond the Stars. He goes to take off. He's like, I can't go. I got to help him out. And he goes back, and of course, he gets killed. It's that whole thing about, to be a true hero, you have to lay down your personal whatever and go for the greater good. Because let's face facts, Rankin, not only did he save Rankin's life, Rankin wouldn't have made it. Rankin, his weapon went dead. He wouldn't have gotten to that switch.
Yeah, I agree. That's what I was thinking. I was thinking this would not happen. If they remade this movie and made it like a full-fledged horror movie, and that happened, they would probably kill his character off.
Yeah.
And they would probably do something else and do a twist and make it be the female doctor. Make it Benson, who turned out to be the real hero who saves the day. They would do it switch around.
Well, what I couldn't figure out is why they didn't just blow a hatch or something. All the eye creatures would have gotten sucked out. He's wearing a spacesuit. I walk in my spacesuit, hit the button, and now meet up with the ship. I'm going to fight my way through the artificial gravity.
Yeah, or they could have done something where the space station's getting close to the sun and do exactly what you said. Open the hatch, they all get sucked out, but instead of, because if they get sucked out to space near Earth, they've got the chance that they could still enter Earth atmosphere and probably one or two of them survive. Where if they did it, we're close to the sun, we'll open the hatch, suck them into space, but in the direction of the sun, and then they would have been fried and burned up heading into the sun. They could have done something like that.
Yeah. Or you could go the darker route and just have Earth fire missiles at the station with everyone on it because they can't risk one of those creatures getting to Earth.
Yeah.
Or they could have just ended it where they get to Earth and they end with the Earth being taken over by the green slime and ended on a tragedy. And then you would have been even more pissed because you'd be like, I watched 90 minutes of a love triangle for the Earth to get fucking destroyed.
Because I'm gonna tell you right now, if any one of you watch Gort, the Body Snatcher from Hell, it has a very foreboding ending. I won't tell you how it ends, but let's just say that Earth is pretty much fucked. So we'll just say that.
Every time you mention it, there's a bell ringing in my head, and I'm gonna have to research. I think I've seen it. I just can't. But I'm gonna look it up. I think I've seen it. I just can't place it. Yeah.
But
that happens to me.
Yeah. One plot hole that I found with the ending, although he took Elliot's body after he died, wouldn't there be a chance that there would be even the smallest bit of slime on Elliot's body or on his suit, leaving?
But they could have used that for the sequel.
Yeah. I mean, so what, they're just going to take him home and not even examine him or anything?
Well,
one of the best lines in John Carpenter's The Thing is when David Keith says, "How are we going to survive?" And Kurt Russell says, Maybe we shouldn't. Because if we're alive, there's a chance we're infected. Now, of course, there's a wonderful, wonderful fanfic that they're actually both already infected and have become sort of rival things and are both having a little pissing contest. And that's why the offering of the bottle is so important. You're not worried about being infected because you're already infected. Now, I don't know if that is necessarily the case, but I love it so much.
Yes. For that, I don't want they're both infected. Childs is infected. McCready's infected. I don't want there to be an answer either way, because whatever the answer is, if we get an official one, it will soften the ending of that movie.
True. Yes.
I think it's deliciously ambiguous. So
And
I think I permit myself to remain unconvinced just because, well, but like the first time I heard that theory, it blew my mind because like I had never thought of that, and I'm like, wow.
But
Very
the other
seldom do you, it's like, well, I don't want to give it away because I'm gonna be on with Century, and we're gonna be talking about it. But to actually come up with a game-changing theory which completely turns an entire movie around, you don't get that a lot. So when you see that in like Thing from Another World, I gobbled it up. I really did.
But the other theory was that the way you can tell that someone was infected is either their eyes show no light when it's reflecting on it, or they couldn't breathe any breath coming out their mouths when that's go. But as you say, it's best to leave.
The breath one though, that's out the window because you do see like it when Bennings lets out that scream. So that's.
Yeah. See, that's what I'm saying. So that's why I say it's best to let that film in that ambiguous way, because it's like you come up with so many theories, you don't know exactly what. And this film does that same thing. It's like, does that come back with that, or that we don't know?
Well, just the question: does the Wilford Brimley character, when exactly does he change? Is he just having a psychotic break in that first scene where he goes nutcase and destroys everything and changes later?
The thing about that is
it was gradual, because when at the autopsy scene, there's like one shot where it looks like there's just a speck of blood on his arm, and over the course of the several days, he started to become, or it could have just been as easy as whoever was infected walked up to his isolation, opened up that little slot, and just dropped a little piece of it in there to infect him.
Yeah. So before we'll rank this and give a final thought, because there's not really much more we can do when it comes to the green slime. There is a little bit of trivia I have got here. So the green slime was used for the pilot episode of the film mocking television series Mystery Science Theater 3000 in 1988 on KTMA. The episode differed from others as it lacked the character Tom Servo, instead featuring a puppet named Beeper who only spoke in beeps that Crow T robot could understand. Every year, the Green Slime Award is given out for that year's worst in science fiction at the BubaCon, a tradition started by writer Roy Tackett in 1976. The film was the inspiration for the board game The Awful Green Things from Outer Space.
Wow.
So I've never heard of that board game.
I have neither.
Neither have I.
Neither have I.
It sounds appropriate. Would you folks mind if I indulge in a few more pieces of trivia that I discovered in my
Go ahead.
research?
Go ahead.
A couple of these things actually blew my mind. William Finger, who took the story by Reiner and expanded it into the teleplay, he collaborated with Bob Kane in creating the DC comic universe Batman.
And wow.
Okay.
Arguable that he made more of the iconic choices about Batman.
Yeah, Kane himself said it was probably 75% him, 25% me. And it's funny because everybody thinks Bob Kane, but no, William Finger actually apparently did at least half, probably more. Also, Jack Rankin, the name, I had to look this up, and I couldn't prove it, but I found some connections. Jack Rankin's name, it reminded me of Rankin Bass, the company probably best known for doing the Christmas specials here in the States. But they created a form of stop-motion animation known as Animagic, which they did in Japan.
Yes.
Probably best known for doing, it wasn't animated, but it was one of their best-known films, The Last Dinosaur.
Yes.
Wasn't Rankin Bass, didn't he have something to do with King Kong Escapes?
Yes, they did.
Yes, they did. Yes, they did.
That might have been the connection with Linda Miller in this.
Could be. Also, the guy Tadahito, I believe his name is, helped them develop it. And he's probably best known. He actually collaborated on what is arguably the first feature-length anime film, Momotaro and the Fighting Sea Eagles, which was actually made during World War II and is actually Japanese propaganda against the Western powers. But the funny thing is, Taie Studios did some of their animation as well. So I always thought that Jack Rankin's name was a nod to Rankin Bass.
All right.
That's
Interesting.
And Kinji, by the way, the director, he also directed the Japanese portions of one of my favorite war films, Toya Toya Toya, which was supposed to be directed by Kurosawa. But when they made a couple of production design botches, he walked off the project. Like, for example, the way that the pool we were talking about before, the way it was set up, when the Japanese fleet sailed off into the sea to attack Pearl Harbor, the sun was setting. It should have been rising because, the Empire of the Sun, the sun rises over the Pacific, not behind them. They ended up what they did was they shot it in reverse. So they went backwards into the sunset. So it looked like they were going forward into the sunrise. Oh, and one of the things, I don't know if any of you remember the 2017 movie Life.
Yes,
Yeah.
I think that borrowed very, very, very
I
heavily.
was thinking that.
Yeah. Now you mention that, I can see the connection between Life and the Green Slime.
Yes, very.
Is that the one that was it Ben Affleck in that?
No,
Or
that
was
was
it Ryan Reynolds?
It was Ryan Reynolds.
Ryan Reynolds was in it.
What was the name?
It's where the astronaut and it ends up in the ocean at the end, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. I haven't seen it since it was in the theaters, so I forget. But like I said, I haven't seen it in like 7 years. But I remember watching it going, this is Green Slime.
Since you technically mentioned Tora, and I don't know when I'm going to get to bring up this fact ever, but what was his name? Why does it slip? The guy who did the special effects for the Godzilla movies.
E.G. Tsuburaya.
I don't know why that slipped my memory, but when during World War II, he made a propaganda film, again, his job to recreate the bombing of Pearl Harbor. And it was so convincing, the Allies thought it was real footage, but because he made that propaganda film, he was technically considered the lowest class of war criminal you can be convicted as.
He also did the special effects sequences from Battle from Hawaii to Malay as well, which was also mistaken for actual war footage because his effects were very meticulous and very convincing for the time.
I believe it. Wow.
He's a genius. That's why.
Well, what can we say? My first time viewing the Green Slime, it wasn't what I was expecting it to be. To be honest, my feelings are it's not something I would return to as often as, I'd probably was expecting to. I had heard a lot of things about Green Slime, but had never actually seen it. Now I have. Starting from the top and make our way down to the bottom. Final thoughts and ratings. So, Mr. Jedi Velle.
Well, I'm kind of like what you said. It's not what you expected, and it's not something. I mean, I would suggest it for anyone who just wants to kill a few, 90 minutes or something like that, and just watch, just for laughs and giggles. I mean, because it's not really a bad film, but it's not exactly what you say go back to again and again. You just pop it in just in case you're just really bored and put it out there. But I would give this I would say I give this a 5 at least, for me.
Bang in the middle. Yeah,
right, exactly.
Yeah. Daniel Miller.
I'm gonna have to give this movie. I'm gonna give it a 5 out of 10. An interesting premise. Special effects. They vary from really good miniatures to not so convincing. in some places. The slime effects I thought were actually very well done. The monsters, the actual slime creatures, not what I was expecting, even though they're on the promotional posters for the movie. At some point, because they have one big red eye, I was immediately reminded of the rock snakes from the 1966 movie Thunderbirds Are Go, where the Zero X crew are on Mars and they see all these rock formations. Then one of them wakes up and it's just this big red circle.
Which I like better, believe it or not.
But yeah. Interesting special effects for it's a movie of its time. You know, it's of course it's not going to age perfectly across the board. There'll still be some elements just like, oh no, that effect doesn't work anymore. But you know, is it something that you would revisit? Maybe, maybe not. I say it's a movie that you can watch with friends to appreciate its quality and have a laugh every now and then. Is it something that you would go back to religiously or on a consistent basis? I'm not quite sure. But there are, as I've said, some things to be admired, some good things to take away from it. But elements like the whole love triangle plot, it could benefit with being without that, or at least just condensed to one line. But no, 5 out of 10.
Yeah. Mr. Anthony Jordan.
5 out of 10. Like, there's things I like, but the movie also seems to drag in places, and I think a lot of it just boils down to the script. This is a script that needed at least 2 or 3 more drafts before they filmed it. It feels very much like a first draft script where there's a lot of good ideas, but nothing has been fine-tuned and refined into a better story. So yeah, I'll go with the 5. It just wasn't, I didn't know what to expect, but it wasn't this, and like it's not one that I see myself really revisiting or like having to like rush out to own on physical media either.
Yeah. Mr. Thrash.
Well, as I say, when I first saw it, it was like an event because I'd waited to see it for so long. But looking at it more objectively, looking at it with the eyes of a critic, I got to say, it feels padded. The pacing is inconsistent. I can forgive some of the special effects are very good. Some are not so good. I can forgive that. Looking at it purely from entertainment value, I love the cast. It has a solid cast, and I think it's just your fun schlock. Brian Aldiss, I think, said it best. Science fiction is no more written for scientists than ghost stories are written for ghosts. This was meant to just be a romp, and it gives what it promises. But again, it does have shortcomings. And as far as its status, it's a cult film, but not a quality cult film. But I will have to give it 6.5. That's my final rating. 6.5.
Yeah. Me personally, like I said, going into this, I had high hopes. In the end, I do feel like this feels more like a 90-minute like television episode from, like, say, an anthology series from the 1960s. It just didn't grab us the way I was expecting it to. The positives are, like Daniel's mentioned, some of the effects that were used I thought were well done. I love the executions of the men that were, killed by the alien. I thought that, the effects that they use and the aftermath of the electrocutions by the aliens was well put together. I thought those scenes were really gripping. The overall plot, if you take away the love triangle, it still has quite a strong plot on these people that basically are trying to avoid disaster and stop the Earth being infected by these extraterrestrials. But like Anthony, I do believe it has a lot of pacing issues, but you've just got to take it for what it is. And like you say, for 90 minutes, just switch your mind off, switch your brain off, and just enjoy it for what it is. So with that, I think it's, another 5 out of 10 for me. But that has been the green sling from me and my guests. Mr. Jedi Granville, is there anything coming to your channel?
Not at this moment. I mean, in tune before I get my channel going for the rebranding and everything. Nothing specific, but as I say, I will keep you all in tune with what that will be, because I guarantee you it's coming. And what we mentioned here, some of that will be on my channel, but I'm hoping that it'll be up sooner than later. But I mean, until then, just keep your fingers crossed.
Yes. Daniel Miller.
Nothing coming to the channel as of yet, but I am working on some illustrations and also some creative writing projects in the meantime. When they're finished, keep an eye out for on my socials for when they are ready to be dropped on my YouTube channel. I don't know exactly when that's going to be, but never say never. Check the socials. Eyes to the skies, ears to the ground.
Marvelous. Anthony Jordan.
Well, I still gotta upload my Destroy All Monsters review, and then I need to jump on watching All Monsters Attack, which I'm dreading that review. But other than pushing through with my Return of Godzilla-thon, I definitely want to finish up the Heisei and finish up Showa and get into the Heisei era as soon as possible.
Very good. Sounds great. Thrash.
Tomorrow at 1 p.m. my time, I believe 6 yours, I'm going to be joining Tug, the Unapologetic Geek, on his channel. We're going to be doing a deep dive on one of my favorite of all time action cop buddy pictures, Nighthawks. With Sylvester Stallone and Rutger Hauer. Yeah, dude. I just saw it again last night. I love this film, and I'm dying to talk about it. So hopefully you guys can join us. And then, of course, tomorrow night, I'll be having my normal 7:30 live chat. Don't even think I'm going to even have a specific plot. It'll probably just be like open forum, as I like to say, bring your own question. And I'll just answer questions on any subject. I will have trivia.
I was going to say, you always have a trivia on your Sunday Night Live, so that's the fun part.
Yes, I will.
Well, it's always fun. Everything you do is fun, but I do enjoy listening to the trivia. So that's probably one of my personal favorites when you do your lives.
Thank you. There will be trivia tomorrow, I promise.
Oh, cool.
And then I probably have some new content coming out this week, but it's a couple of different projects I'm working on.
All right, well, keep your eyes peeled to the Thrashpondo Pons YouTube channel. As for me in the entertainment headquarters tomorrow, I have a lovely date with the lovely Linda Miller. So tomorrow I will be interviewing her and asking her some questions on her career, her life, and life beyond King Kong, and seeing what's coming her way in the future. And also, I might have a couple of trailer reactions and a couple of reviews coming in the near future. But that's all that's coming your way from the entertainment headquarters, because I've had quite a week this week. I'm all conged out.
And please tell Miss Miller what fans of hers your associates are, by the way.
Yes,
on behalf of us all.
Absolutely. I'll mention you all. But this has been the entertainment headquarters. Keep loving all things entertainment. Keep on enjoying your movies. And like my good friend Walter Ross, a.k.a. Jedi Granville, always says, keep the kaiju love alive. And you better avoid the green slime.
Yes.
Night, everybody.
Yeah.